Good morning. The year 2020 began as a extremely promising year. All the numbers that we at Employment and Workforce track were very good. Unemployment rate 2.5% back in February. Job numbers, we were hitting a record every month they were announced, 2,333,000 in February. Number of unemployed people down to 59,000 people, a low. 2 months later, the bottom had been pulled out from under us and everything turned around. Unemployment rate was up to 12.8%. The number of jobs were down to 2,073,000, and the number of unemployed had gone from 59,000 to 303,000. And that was bad enough. Even worse, the hospitality and food service lost half of their jobs as we went through this pandemic. Many of us lived through the 2008-2009 recession, and we all heard the economists say back then, this is it. It can't get any worse than this unless we go into a new depression. Well, if you looked at the month of February and March in South Carolina and the U.S. and compared it to 2008 and 2009, you would say that the Great Recession was pretty mild compared to what we had just gone through. But it didn't last forever. The recovery began under the governor's plan. Much of the businesses reopened safely, I might add, and the economy responded. Somebody asked me one time in an interview, did the governor reopen the economy at the right time? I said, well, don't ask my opinion, just look at the numbers. And the numbers are this, and by September, the unemployment rate was back down to 5.1%. The job numbers were back up to 2,269,000, and the number of unemployed had dropped from 303,000 down to 121,000. The numbers were all the jobs lost in the state of South Carolina had been regained. In Georgia, only 49%. North Carolina, 56%. U.S. average, 56%. Once again, however, the recovery wasn't even. In the hospitality and food service industry, only 60% of the jobs were recovered. Many employers were still struggling. We stay in touch with employers. We talk to them about how things are going. And we knew that most of them, many of them, could not withstand another shock like what hit them in February and March. It was at about this time that we started our planning. Every year at about fall, we start looking at two things. The tax rate for the following year. What will be the fees assessed to employers to pay benefits for the following year? And the trust fund has gone below its goal, then we have to look at a rebuild. Those are the two things that we do. When you look at the tax rate, the numbers became evident very quickly. If we projected the 2021 benefits to be paid and set the taxes at that level, it would be a doubling of taxes for most employers in the state of South Carolina, and added 175 or close to $175 million added to the cost those employers would have to bear. That was a shock they could withstand. We looked at the rebuild. The governor said we avoided a borrowing, and we did, and that's good, and that's because we were prepared with $1.1 billion in the trust fund at the beginning of this. But even though we didn't have to borrow, the trust fund was way down from $1.1 billion down to about $200 million, which meant we had a massive rebuilding coming, and employers were going to have to foot the bill for this in the first 4 years following the end of the recession. So we looked for a solution. We met with the governor's office and his support people. We met with the legislative leadership, many of them here today. We talked with the business community, and we looked at CARES Act money. And as the governor said, CARES Act money was used, in my opinion, very wisely. It will support not only businesses, but indirectly every South Carolinian in the state. $500 million was designated immediately, and we have it. Another up to $420 million is available. The legislature authorized us to depart from the normal rule of requiring all the payments from employers. We took the additional money for 2021 from CARES Act money, which is what allowed us to keep the tax rate the same for 2021 as it is for 2020. The remainder of the money, up to $47 million, would be used for the rebuild. So hopefully by doing this, no employer will suffer as a general rule an increase in taxes unless they change categories. Now, As many of you know, when all this began, we announced we would not charge employers for COVID-related layoffs, and we have not, and we will not do that. Some employers, however, are going to change categories from a 4 to a 6 or a 6 to a 4 because of pre-COVID-19 layoffs or from layoffs that occurred during the pandemic that were not COVID-19 related. But other than that, almost everybody stays exactly the same with no change in category. So we thought we had a good game plan, but we also realized we got a lot of unemployed people sitting out there. A lot of people who are on unemployment still, even though the federal programs are both of them have now expired, the supplemental payment programs, that is. We had paid out $4.6 billion in unemployment from the beginning of the pandemic through today, $4.6 billion, which kept the economy going. But we know that those programs are coming to an end, and the bottom line is at some point the employees, the claimants, the people drawing benefits have got to return to work. And that has begun now, job one for us at our agency. We're still doing our best to pay benefits when claims come in. We're hearing appeals. We're doing everything we're supposed to, but we now know we got 120-some thousand employees, claimants, who need to go back to work. The good news is we got about 81,000 open positions in our South Carolina online database right now, positions being sought to be filled by employers. So we know we've got an awful lot of opportunities out there, and we have started a major push to get people back to work. Job fairs, how can you do them? You put people together, you got exposure problems. Well, our local areas and our Employment Services Division came up with virtual job fairs, all done on a computer, walk-through job fairs, drive-through job fairs, all done very, very safely, innovatively, I might add, by our local areas. We have developed the ability to do targeted emails. So if Michelin or someone else announces they need to hire 50 people in Spartanburg County, we can look at a traveling range that most people have for these jobs. Let's assume it's 40 miles. And we could look at everything within 40 miles and everyone within manufacturing experience. And everybody that came up on that, Michelin's hiring, high-paying jobs, you're qualified, go to the job fair or go online and apply. We are doing these by the hundreds of thousands each month. We will soon launch what we're calling Project Job One, which is going to be a major communication effort aimed at getting employees to go ahead and start looking for a job now. Don't wait till the end. And we're going to be laying out research that says if you're unemployed and you want a good job, go get them now, because the good jobs go first. And if you wait to the end of this whole recession and you take it, according to some research, you will not get one of the good jobs. So we're going to try to motivate people back into the workforce. There's been a lot of work done on this, and a lot of people to this plan. The governor's office, as I said, the legislative leadership, they've all been wonderful to work with, and everybody very, very concerned about not only businesses but individuals in the state of South Carolina. One of the main people we work with is going to be the next speaker. He's the chairman of LCI, Senator Thomas Alexander.